And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show where we talk St. Mary's University and all of its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, once again joined by my co-host Donnie Netto, the Sports Information Director at St. Mary's. And Donnie, this week we're going to focus on women's basketball once again, and a couple of guests that we've never had on the show before. Amber Sorenson, the assistant coach, and then Abby Winter, who is a freshman post player this year for the Cardinals, a familiar name to Winonans, but the first time here on the Cardinals Nest. Both guests, Donnie, are going to make us feel a little height challenge.
A little right? Height challenge? Yeah, I need like a big phone book here to get up to Amber's size. But I'm excited to have Amber on and to have Abby on. Women's basketball makes the playoffs, so it's kind of a great time to be talking to them and really get a feel for the end of the season, but more importantly, what's coming up next week with the playoffs.
Yep, so welcome Amber Sorenson to the program, and as Donnie mentioned, the team has made the playoffs this year, so obviously that's one of the goals, and so you were able to accomplish that. So we'll get into all the team stuff in just a few minutes here, but first, let's learn a little bit more about you. Now, you played at the University of Northern Iowa, right? And from my recollection in reading your bio, kind of a three-point specialist a little bit, right? Set the school record in three-pointers.
It's about all I could do. So.
I find that hard to believe, but tell us more about where you grew up and how you ended up going to Northern Iowa to play basketball.
Yeah, so I grew up in Caledonia, Minnesota, which is about 50 minutes from here. My parents still live there. And then I went to school at the University of Northern Iowa for 5 years, actually. I redshirted my first year and then finished in 2016, May of 2016. And then last year I was actually a graduate assistant at a really small college, Dordt College in Sioux Center, Iowa. So, and now I'm here.
Yeah, so and it's got to be fun for you to be back in the area, right? A lot of familiarity. Was that ever a goal to eventually, obviously, get into coaching and then work your way back to Southeast Minnesota?
I guess it was never an ultimate goal. I did choose Northern Iowa because it was close to home and I really like this area. And then once this opportunity presented itself, I'm close to my parents, and that's really nice. So can't ask for anything better than that.
How has this first year here been for you? Obviously, you didn't know Brent real well, and you come in, and how has that adjustment been to being the assistant coach here at St. Mary's?
Really good. He's an awesome coach. He knows his basketball, and he cares a lot about the girls on the court and off the court. So that's really good. He has a good relationship with most of them, and he's a really good coach to work under too, just because he understands the work-life balance. He understands that I want to spend time with family and that work is going to come as a priority too. So that's really nice to have.
And what did you pick up at Dordt College after your playing days were over? That was your first job as an assistant coach. What were you able to develop there, learn there, that you think you're better at now here at St. Mary's?
I would say the biggest thing, the biggest challenge for me as I went from a player to a coach was, as a player, I understood things, but I didn't know how exactly to explain them and translate them to the players and break things down. So it was just, as a player, you just go out and do it. As a coach, it's a little different. You have to take it step by step and really walk them through it. So that was one thing I really learned in my first year at Dordt. And even this year, I feel like I've grown a lot in that way, just because Brent's really good at, he's really specific and detail-oriented, so that's helped a lot too.
Now, while we're still on the topic of your playing days a little bit, a little birdie told me today, and I'm not going to tell you who that little birdie was because I want no repercussions on them in practice, but they said that you're not a very good smack talker.
Oh, Isabel.
Actually, that's not who it was, but the topic of me interviewing you came up, and then I said, give me something on Amber, and they're like, she can't smack talk.
No, I can't.
So tell us more about that. Are you too nice out there, or what?
I just don't. I mean, I try, and I just don't think I come off as intimidating, so that's part of it.
So the right words don't come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when I played one-on-one with my brother's 5 years younger than me, and we used to play one-on-one all the time, and he would trash talk a lot, and I would just, whatever, it's fine.
You didn't pick up, you didn't learn from him then.
I did, and my dad trash talks, so yeah, I just didn't get that.
Well, I'm guessing Coach Polerai doesn't want you teaching that to the girls anyway, right?
Amber, talk a little bit, is it hard being just basically 2 years out of playing? Do you ever find yourself out there going, man, I wish I could be out there, I wish I was still playing?
Yeah. That happened a lot last year, actually. This year it's been a little bit better. I think I've just gotten used to the coaching part of it. But it's fun because during like individual workouts and stuff, I can still do things with the girls and play dummy defense against them, and that's nice. And even we play around the world sometimes just for fun. So those kinds of things are nice. Obviously, I'd love to be out on the court again, but I do play noon ball. So.
Do you find yourself maybe even trying to tell some of the players, hey, cherish this time? I know, like I was going to bring up Lex because obviously you're only senior, but cherish what you get. You get 4 years to do this because when you're done, it's done. And do you find yourself maybe being able to kind of help them because you've been in their shoes before?
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's hard to explain too because you don't truly understand what it's like until you're in that moment. So like Lex is getting down to her final couple games, and so now it's probably starting to hit her. But like for the younger girls, it's like, well, I got 4 more years. So it's really hard to explain to them to make them understand it. I think part of it's just you start to realize it as you get older. So.
Let's talk about Alexa Huseman a little bit more, the only senior on the team. And of course, she's had some breakout games, performances this year. The one game she had 32 points. How have you been able to help her? I mean, she's kind of our three-point shooting specialist, right? And that's sort of your area of expertise too. Have you worked with her on her shot a little bit, or what have you helped bring to her game in your opinion?
Honestly, with her, when she's confident, she just shoots it so well. So it's just kind of getting her in that zone, and she does a pretty good job of that herself. She's pretty good at staying level-headed and understanding what is a good shot and what isn't. So I think for the most part, she just does a really good job of understanding which shots to take. And
Lex Curry, is that her name?
Yeah, that's what I understand. So, yep.
How about the fact that, and again, with Lex, being the only senior, you were a senior at one time. Is it hard for her being the only one? Because, you always look up to your seniors, and when you have 2 or 3 of them, you can kind of spread that responsibility. But for Lex, that's got to be a lot of weight on her shoulders to be that leader as the only senior.
Yeah, and especially when we started with 15 freshmen. We've lost a couple, but yeah, she's done an awesome job at being a leader, especially for those girls, as far as them understanding what it takes to come into practice every day ready to go. And even our juniors, they've been really good leaders too, so I think that's nice for them to learn from Lex too, because they're going to have to take on that role next year. So. Yeah.
So as we take a look at this team a little bit more just from a team perspective, Amber, how do you and Coach Pollerai sort of assess the season? There's still games left to go, but you've secured a playoff spot. The seeding is still to be determined. So there's obviously still goals that you have yet to achieve, even though you got one of them in making the playoffs. From a coaching perspective, what are some things that you have done really well, and what are still some areas that you hope the team can improve upon to not only improve their seeding here down the stretch, but also advance in the playoffs?
Yeah, so one of the big things and Coach Pollerai does a really good job at making the scouting reports for the girls, and a lot of times it's game specific, so just taking it one game at a time. And the girls do a really good job of locking into each scout too, because we do go. Each game is very different. Like each team we play, like St. Thomas tonight is a little bit more experienced, and Hamlin on Saturday is they play a little bit more quick, so it'll be different. Game to game, it's just a lot different. So.
As you head into the playoffs, and I don't want to take anything away from the end of the regular season, but we were talking off camera about the 18-game MIEC schedule. So when you get to the playoffs, 3 of the teams that you could face, you have only faced once.
Yeah.
Is that good? Is that bad? Does it really matter at that stage? Talk a little bit about how that would work out.
Yeah, so, well, one of the teams, so if we get the 4th seed, we'll play Bethel most likely, and we've played them twice, and we really liked how we played against them the second time. So I think learning from that will be nice. As far as the teams that we've only played once, that's fine too, because we've definitely learned from the first time. I mean, the first time we played Gustavus, we learned a lot from that game. Same with St. Ben's, and I mean St. Thomas tonight. We'll definitely learn from film, but I don't think that really matters as much. It's just learning from those first 2.
And Amber, as you mentioned, right here on HBC Wednesday night, St. Thomas, a home game. We'll have it at 7 o'clock. Give us a little scouting report on St. Thomas. Undefeated in the conference, ranked 8th in the country. They've only lost twice all year.
Yeah.
What makes them so good?
Well, their experience, first of all, and Ruth, their head coach, she's a very, very, very good coach. But like I said, their experience, they've got a post player who shoots 73% inside the paint. So I mean, that's kind of tough to stop, and they've got shooters around her that can knock down any shot. So they've just got pretty all-around good game, and defensively they're pretty good too. But we've got a good plan against them, so I think we should be.
Our next guest, Abby Winter, did not want to hear you just talk about that post
She
player
knows.
who shoots
She knows.
73%.
She knows. She's
we'll ask
ready.
her about that later. But
Amber, can you just talk a little bit about you? We've talked about Lex and the upperclassmen, but like you said, you've got a lot of younger players. One of them coming on next in
Yep.
Abby. Talk a little bit about how they have progressed as this season has gone on, because it's a big jump from high school to college basketball.
Oh yeah, yep. And it's a big. A lot of them played on pretty successful high school teams too, and they had a lot of minutes on those high school teams. So it's different when you come to college, and the upperclassmen have most of the minutes, and so coming in, they're not used to that, and they've done a really good job of buying into their role on the team. I mean, some of them come in. We've changed our starting lineup a few times, and they don't duck their heads on that. They just come in when their time is called.
yeah. So Amber, one last question real quick here before we go, and that is when you're out recruiting students, and we might have prospective students watching the show, what do you tell them about why they should come and play women's basketball at St. Mary's?
One of our biggest things, first of all, is that they have to like the school, because you can't just come to the school, especially at this level when you're not getting any money for it. You gotta like the school, and we've got really good academics, so we try and explain that to them. And then the other thing too is that we've got Coach Poller, like we talked about earlier, he's great with relationships with the girls, so he gets really good relationships with those recruits, and I try to do that as well. That's one thing I've really learned from him. So. Again, that's a big thing for our program, is the relationships and the experience.
All right, Amber Sorenson, our new assistant women's basketball coach. Thanks for being on the show. Good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, stay tuned. Abby Winter, our freshman post player on the women's basketball team, will be on the program next on HBC.
At Midtown Foods, we know it's not just about getting groceries. It's about friendly faces, fresh produce, quality cuts of meat, and experienced employees. We know because we shop here too. Midtown Foods, Winona's largest locally owned grocery store, downtown Winona.
Don't miss out on highlights and score updates from your favorite local college and high school athletics by following HBC TV 25 Sports. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get up-to-date information on all the games covered by the HBC sports team. Grab your smartphone and add us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at HBC TV 25 Sports.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest. Our focus this week, women's basketball. We already had on Amber Sorenson, the assistant coach, and now Abby Winter joins us. Donnie, you and I, we don't feel a whole lot taller going from Amber to Abby. But Abby, welcome to the program. And as a freshman at St. Mary's, your first chance to be on the Cardinals Nest. But for Winonans, you're a familiar face, right? You went to Winona Senior High School and played on their very successful teams under Coach Gleason. So maybe just talk about your decision to go to St. Mary's, right? Coming from Winona High, and a lot of your teammates, they're scattered all across the country, right? The ones that you played with from 7th, 8th grade all the way through high school, and went to some state championship games with them. So talk about that development and why you ended up coming to St. Mary's.
Yeah, a lot of my teammates had left and gone everywhere around the country, and I really just got a good vibe here at St. Mary's. I like the community aspect and school here. I knew they had a really good education program, and that's what I really wanted to do. I talked with Coach P and Coach Sorenson, and I felt really at home with them, and I liked their coaching style. And I met a few of the girls, and I really got along with them, and that really helped my decision. And Coach Gleason really helped me decide that. He was like, no shame at staying at home. Like, that's awesome for you. You have all your family here to come watch you play all the time. What else would you want to do? And I think he really helped me develop as a player. Yeah. He was great, just supportive and always about us as a family. And I think that really helped my transition into where I picked because I felt at home here at St. Mary's.
You know, as a professor at St. Mary's, I always feel a little biased, but I think what you said is really letting academics help to guide the decision is an important factor, and not everybody does that. And so as you talk to some of your friends who are in high school now and making decisions on where to go to school, what are some pieces of advice that you give them?
I would say go somewhere that has your program and really is committed to getting you somewhere with that. Like, my professors here really care about everything I do, and it's all like they want you to be successful. So
both in class and on the athletic court, right? Whether it's volleyball or basketball, because you're a dual sport athlete too.
Yep.
So.
Talk a little bit about coming to St. Mary's. It had to be kind of, for most people, it's a scary time. You go into a strange place. For you, you walk in the athletic offices and everybody knows you. Your mom works in the athletic offices. Tony, I got to get a shout out to you, so there you go. I remember watching you grow up, and by the time you were 8 years old, you were taller than me, so I always knew that. But, was it nice for you coming to St. Mary's and that you knew, you didn't have that, you had that comfort of knowing people around you?
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, I know I am familiar with this, and I'm not really meeting that many new people, but I like it. It's just like gives me a better connection with everyone in this community, and I want to stay here hopefully. So I think that
how about playing? You mentioned it before. All through high school, mom and dad and Brad were all at your games. Now in college, they're able to be there too. You've got your dad still shouting from the stands as much as he did when you were playing high school.
Try to calm him down a little bit.
Is that a nice feeling to know that like you said, they're able to come to all your games and watch you play? I know that's got to be kind of comforting to be able to play in front of your family.
Yeah, that's an awesome feeling, just them being able to see me play all the time and even getting to watch Brad play still as he's in high school. So.
Your parents were athletes too, of course, and so is there still some advice being given once in a while, or do they kind of leave you alone now that you're at college?
There's still advice for sure. My dad always has something to say, but it's always in the best way, like helping me and supporting me through everything.
Right,
so.
Good.
Talk a little bit about this year, your adjustment from really a high level of basketball at Winona High. You made it to back-to-back state championship games. Coming to St. Mary's, was there a big adjustment playing in college basketball?
I still think there's a huge adjustment, even going from state basketball in high school. The game is just a lot quicker and more fast out there, so, and more physical, I would think. So.
And you played in conference games, of course, non-conference games. Do you even see the jump there going from a non-conference game to the MIAC where you're playing St. Thomas and Gustavus and a lot of the heavyweights there?
Yeah, for sure. It's just more quicker and physical, and it's just bigger, everything is. So.
Yeah.
We asked Coach Sorenson about Lex and being the only senior. Can you talk a little bit about from a player's perspective, what she's brought to this team?
I think she's done an amazing job. Being one senior, it's a tough role to have, but I think she's done a great job of putting it on her back. She is the mom of our team, and she's got me through a lot of stuff being a freshman. She boosts your confidence. She's a great leader and role model to have.
And then, of course, as a post player yourself, I'm sure you've also looked up to and gotten a lot of help from Brandy Blattner, right? She's a junior this year, so maybe talk about your relationship with Brandy.
Oh yeah, we have a great relationship ever since the beginning of the year. We've always been really close together, but she is a leader on the floor as well, especially being in the same spot, like you said. She helps out a lot with just, you need to do this right now, Abby. I was like, yep, all right.
As you come into toward the end of your first year, can you talk a little bit about what you feel like you've done well this season and maybe some things that you still need to work on?
Yes. Some things I need to work on is just being more confident in myself. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of staying like pretty level as a freshman, I'd say, but definitely just like getting like stronger throughout the next few years and working on my shot and defense and all around.
We had
game.
Coach Sager on last week, in our strength and conditioning coach. How has he been for this team? I know for you've been one that has worked out even through high school, but for a lot of these people, this is a new thing. How much has he helped this team in terms of getting stronger and getting better and faster?
Coach Sager has been awesome. Like in the beginning of the season, he pushes us through preseason, which isn't something that we want to do, but he helps us get through it, and he cares so much, and you can just tell that he wants us to get better.
You know, it's rare for a freshman to get thrust into the starting lineup like you have been. Has that put some added pressure on you? And what went through your mind when Coach Pollerai said, hey, you're starting tonight?
Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure, but I just try to tell myself, like, you're all right, just go out and play your game, and everything will be
So
good.
this is going to be a weird question, but 5 people start. You have rotations. There's tons of people that play. Is it a big deal to be in that starting lineup? What is the advantage to being a starter compared to somebody coming off the bench?
I don't know if there's technically an advantage, I'd say like you can play a role either way. Like coming off the bench, you get a more of like, now it's my time to go, you know. But you know, I'd say it's pretty similar anywhere.
So Amber had brought up, and I think Donnie mentioned too, the scouting reports that Coach Pollerai does, and you heard Amber talk about St. Thomas's post player. How much time do you spend pregame looking at those scouting reports and trying to memorize some of the things and some of your specific assignments for that game? So maybe talk about game preparation, because there's more to it than just showing up 2 hours before the game, getting dressed, taking some warm-up shots, and saying, okay, I'm good to go, right?
Right. It's a lot of film and preparation there, and then mainly through practice, we go through a lot of scout and how they're going to come out and how they're going to want to attack us. So it's a lot of going through their plays and repetition, and like memorizing. It's not just, you know, like you said, going out there.
And so what you've studied so far with St. Thomas, what's going to be the challenge for you tonight, defensively especially?
Stopping their big girl, trying to shut her down for sure.
And of course, they're deep too, right? And
yes.
so that adds into. How have you done from a stamina standpoint? Is that getting a little bit better as the season has progressed, or do you feel like from a conditioning standpoint, you've been there since day one?
I think it gets better as the season goes on for sure. Like in the beginning, it's kind of rough, and then you like settle down and even out. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you guys talked at all playoff-wise? I know it was a goal, and I know that now you have it locked up just depending on where you end up. As a team, have you talked about what that next step is going to be and how you're going to be able to ramp your game up even another level? Because once you get to the playoffs, it's all or nothing.
Right. We've talked about it a little bit. I think. At least for me, big key is we have one senior out there. We want her to do really well. This is playoffs, so that's something for sure. And just to come out and play our game, and hoping that we do get to play Bethel again, obviously.
Now, as a person who has played on the biggest stage in high school at the state tournament, once you get to playoffs, will you be able to use some of that experience to maybe even for some of your other freshmen who will be haven't been on that that big of a stage, will you be able to be a leader, so to speak, in terms of playing in the postseason?
Yeah, I think that will for sure help. I mean, just playing in state and being on the Gopher Stadium or whatever, that helps you stay calm. Like, it's easy to just keep relaxed, so. Yeah.
So, Abby, just a couple of minutes left here. And Donnie, and
I don't have anything. I don't have anything.
He usually has some quirky questions.
I got nothing.
Based
I got
off
nothing.
Of, like, the profile that you fill out, but I'm sure
No,
talking
I
to
really
Tony
don't.
in the office.
Tony wouldn't. See, I tried. I tried with your mother, and she wouldn't give me any. She wouldn't give me anything. If you and Brad are going to go one-on-one, okay? Brad is a junior, correct?
Yes.
And he's kind of become the big dunker in the Big Nine.
Yeah,
so if you guys were going to play one-on-one, who wins and why?
I feel in my younger days I would have taken him on.
Her younger days, she's a freshman.
But I think he would beat me now. He's gotten a little taller. But he's a little more athletic. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And now maybe give us something we wouldn't know just from observing from afar about Amber and Coach Pollerai. Talk about what kind of coaches they are and what you appreciate about them.
I would say they're just awesome coaches. They care a lot, like how much time they put into even film and watching it, and just practice planning and everything. They care a lot, and they're just great people as coaches as well. So.
And so as we take a look overall view of the season here, obviously plenty to go. You still have goals to achieve, but so far at this point, as we talk here, would you consider it a success? And what are some areas that you see the team could still improve on a little bit?
Yeah, I would say is an success just because of last year we came a little short of playoffs, and that was our goal. So we got there already, but now just proving what we can do in playoffs is our next step.
And I think too, getting better quarter to quarter. I think Amber had talked about taking it a game at a time, but even quarter to quarter, there's been some differences this year. So maybe just a little more consistency, right? So,
right. Yeah, just staying steady. I know that's what Coach P talks about a lot. Just.
Keep it steady. All right, so Abby Winter, thanks for being on the show today. Loved having you on, and we're going to love having her here and you here for the next 3 years at least, right? So good. So stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. We'll be back, and we'll wrap up the show by talking about all of the other athletic activities on campus.
Hi, I'm Sean Van Gundy, Broadband Installation Manager for HBC. I have been volunteering for the St. Charles Boosters Club for 6 years now. I enjoy volunteering because I love the sport of wrestling, and I love the passion and excitement of the kids. Youth programs like the Booster Club provide valuable skill sets that will benefit all kids that participate. Not only do we work here, we live here, and helping build our community is important to us because HBC is people in your community.
Tune in to Explore the Outdoors with HBC to learn new things to do outdoors in the Winona and surrounding area. This week's episode features fat tire biking and ice wall climbing. Explore the Outdoors airs Sunday through Tuesday at 5 p.m. on HBC TV 25. Brought to you by Adventure Cycle and Ski.
And we're here to wrap up the Cardinals Nest this week. And Donnie, the Cardinals men's hockey team had a wild one on Saturday night. That was kind of a big weekend series with Hamlin.
Yeah, we've got a lot of teams. Both our men's and women's hockey teams are battling for playoff positions. There's so much at stake, and there's so many different scenarios that could happen, but they're right in the thick of it. They take care of business this weekend. They should both make the playoffs, which would be awesome. It's senior weekend, really, and we talk about it all the time in the end of the road for our seniors. You've got 2 graduating seniors on the men's basketball team who play their last home game on Saturday against Hamlin, and then you've got 6 women's hockey players and 13 men's hockey players will be playing their last games this weekend against St. Olaf. So it's an important time for them. It's a time that they can really enjoy, being seniors and kind of going out on a high. And hopefully, we've got 2 hockey teams joining that basketball team in the playoffs when the end of the weekend rolls around.
So where's the women's team at then?
Right now they're tied for 5th.
Tied for 5th.
Yep, and so they've got really, the easiest thing when you talk about the scenarios is if they both sweep St. Olaf this weekend, they should get in. And really, the way they're playing right now, both teams, that is a very good possibility. So hopefully next week when we're talking about 3 playoff teams.
All right, we're out of time on this Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching here on HBC TV 25.